Okay, I've got some cute little treat boxes here that are also ornaments that can hang once you've taken your treat out, or you can leave the treat in there and just make sure you take the treat out before you put it in your attic and store it with your other ornaments. These shouldn't be stored in the attic anyway, so that should take care of that problem. Okay, so what I've done is I've copied a video online. The lady was Italian, I believe, and I couldn't really understand her because I don't speak Italian, but I just kind of watched the pictures and figured out what she did. But I needed a box that was bigger than what she was doing. I believe this was about the size that she was making, which is a 1.5 inch little cube, where this is a 2-inch cube. I needed it to hold like 3 pieces of truffle candy. The little one will hold 1 piece. Well, nobody wants just one. So this is a small size. I'll give you those measurements also in the description below, and the measurements for it would take a half a sheet of paper, and the score lines I will give you below in that, and I will put down small box. Okay, but the one we're going to make today is this one, and it's a 2-inch cube. It'll hold 2 or 3 pieces of candy, and I'm just using some paper from last year's Christmas packages. I'm not even sure what the names of them are anymore. I tried to find one of my old catalogs. I think one of them's called Season of Cheer, but I don't know which one's which because the cardboard was not with the label was not with the rest of the paper. So that's what we're going to do today, and I'm using real red cardstock for my base. Now the big piece takes a sheet of 11-inch by 6-inch, so you're going to take an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and trim it down to 6 inches, and then you're going to score it at 3/4, 1.5, 3.5, 5.5, 7.5, 9.5, and 10.25. Turn it 90 degrees and score it at 2 and 4. And that's all the scoring you're going to do. Now, the way that the lady did hers online, this part of the box was just raw edge. She just made it and then just cut it. But I didn't like that raw edge. Now, if you want to do it that way, that's perfectly fine. That's just not the way I wanted it. She also had this as just a single thickness, and I wanted it double thickness so that it could be opened and closed a couple of times without it actually tearing up the paper. This is a little stamp set from last year that if you want to not have to cut them out by hand, you will need the double bracket punch. And this is the one that it's called Christmas Antique Tags, and it has Noel, it has a Santa Claus, it has a little Christmas tree, it has this little banner here. Now, there's no punch for this banner, you just trim it, and I just happen to have these handy dandy little old scissors from scrapbooking 1,000 years ago that actually cut this little rippledy edge. So that's what we're going to use today. Now, I've done my scoring, so I'm going to take my big scissor, and since this is the hanging part, what it hangs from, I'm going to cut down here and here to that second score line, because we're just really cutting away these corners, just like that. That. Same thing here. Cut away the corner. I've got to make 50 of these. So I thought I would just make a video while I'm making them, just so I will know how to do them next year if I need to do it again for another luncheon. Okay, so you can toss those pieces, don't need those. Now we want to, I didn't get that quite straight. Let me get that straight so it'll match the other side. Okay, now we're going to take our bone folder and just reinforce our lines. Now, if you want your designer paper on the sides to be matted like I did, this side is not, this side is not, but all the little picture ones, I'll call picture ones, are matted around them. If you want to do that, then your matting pieces need to be 1 7/8 And then your designer paper will just be smaller than that. You can make them 1 3/4 or whatever thickness of matting you want. Just reinforce all of these lines. This is going to actually fold backwards, and that's going to fold backwards. There we go. Now, we want to go ahead and decorate these center pieces. But the way I did it, because I wanted it to be wrapped around this edge, I went ahead and just trimmed this cardstock off. So that's going to make it, and you can use, if you want to make sure that it's straight, you could actually use a ruler. And what you're going to cut off, I'll just draw it on here so you can see what's going to get cut off, is that, 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 and that. Now that's if you really, you know, are particular about it, making sure that you get it right, get that line just as straight as it can be. If you're using a big scissor, you should be able to do it without doing that. So I'll take my large scissors. I'm going to go ahead and cut that away. This, 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 and that. Just like that. So you have that on one side. Do the same thing on the other side. I'm not going to draw lines on this one because as long as I'm using my giant scissors, it's pretty easy to kind of just line up your scissor with that other point right there. Go to that point. And then to that point. Okay. Now all our paper's cut away. Now we want to go ahead and put our pieces on here and on here before we start folding the box up or gluing the box together. First thing I want to glue is this part right here. And you can use, I suggest something like score pile tape. Snail will not hold it, of course, because it's a box. And once you start wiggling it, moving it, and opening and closing it, that's going to come unstuck. So I'm going to use a glue pen. Go ahead and glue that down, and just so that I don't have to actually sit here and hold it, I'm just going to stick a clothespin on it. Okay, now while that's sitting for a minute, we'll go ahead and mat our pieces. And I got my 1 7/8 matting piece and my piece of artwork. I'm going to consider this the artwork. It's from the paper pack that has the Christmas trees on it. And I'm going to put those on. And these could be done with snail because they're not going to be pulled on or tugged on. I just happen to have the pin laying there. Okay, I'll do the other one. I'll make sure I get on those little corners because I can't stand it when the corners peel up. Oops, that's upside down. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, those are our 2 pieces that are going to go here and here because we want to have this decorative part while it's hanging that you see, because this is going to have the other little things stuck on it here and here. So this is our kind of what I'll call our artwork side. So those are going to go there and there. And then for this part up here, it's going to be mostly covered up, but I'm going to mat it also. That'll go there. Oh, dead soldier. Go here. Okay, and then the ones on the side are 1 7/8, just like the cardstock mat pieces, so that they will fit these corners because they're not going to be matted. Now, if you use the side of the paper that actually has a design on it, like this, I'm going to use this side, and you're going to be folding at an angle. I'm actually using this at an angle. You see, the paper was this way, but I just cut them on a diagonal so that the little bulbs would, the tops would be at the top. And this is the bottom of the box, so I want to make sure if I'm using a design that the bottom of my design is in the center corner here. So it would go like that. This being the bottom. The little point here is the bottom of what that paper would be. Okay, we're going to go ahead and stick these on. And once again, I'm just going to use my glue stick because you'd probably want to use something like score pile tape. But just for the sake of time, I'm not going to do that. I'll go here. Okay, take my clothespin out of the way. Oops, sticky finger. Okay, and then one thing about using glue, you have a chance to move it, or if it's on tape, you don't have any chance to make any correction. So I want to move that over a little bit. There we go. Okay. And same thing here. Mm-hmm. Put that there. And one more. The first ones of these I made, I used snail for everything, and I noticed that sitting over there in the box, thinking they were ready to go, a couple of them have come unstuck. The edges have curled up. And I don't know why, because it's certainly not humid here right now. Okay, so there we go. So those are down. Now these I'm going to put on with glue, but I want to make sure those are stuck good before I start moving it around. Okay, so since this is going to be the bottom, because I have a design, it goes into this part, this center V, and I'm just going to do those with my glue. Now, if you had fast fuse, I would use that. However, I'm out and my stamping order did not come before Thanksgiving. So you want to make sure that these little points in the edge of the paper are lined up, because that's where the fold is going to be. You're going to fold it over the edge. Okay, so you need to make sure I put the glue on the right part of the paper here. So it goes that way. It goes like, it's like a puzzle. It goes like this. Just like that. And these little points line up with the cut edge of the paper. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. This is really cute paper. I should have purchased more of it at the time. Okay, so it's going to go like that. And this one will go like that. Just like so. Okay. Alrighty. We'll let that dry for just a minute. While that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and take my punched pieces. This is Pool Party punched from that, stamped from that Christmas set. And this is just the center part stamped in real red, because those are the two colors I'm using, Pool Party and real red. So I'm going to trim off that little top and bottom edge of that. I just stamped it, and when I stamp it, you just wipe the this part off before you stamp, so that you can have a little layered look. And those are going to be put on with dimensionals. So I'll put 2 on there, and 2 on here. Oops, don't want to peel this off yet, do I? Come on, stick back on there. There we go. This will be on here. Just like that. Okay, we'll stick that right there. Now, turn it over, and where your paper is going to fold, go ahead and fold it, but we're not sticking it down yet. Fold this. Use your bone folder or your finger or whatever, just to get it a nice crease to make sure the paper's not going to crack or crinkle. And there. Okay, we just open it back up for now. Okay, so now we need to glue, we need to cut on these fold lines out to these points. So just take your big scissor and go from the point down that fold line, down this fold line. You don't have to wait to do this. I just kind of makes it hold the card together till I'm ready. Okay, so you got these little flaps here and here. Those are going to go to the inside. So what I want to do is it's easier, instead of trying to put glue on here, is to put glue on this piece since it's the outside piece. So I'm going to put it just on the cardstock part on both sides. Okay, get some down that point so it'll stay shut. Okay, pull this up with these flaps inside and just line up the outside edge like that on both sides. Get it lined up. And if you don't want to sit there and hold it, that's where your little clothespin comes in handy again. So just stick your clothespin on there to hold it down. Get that lined up correctly so it goes all the way to the bottom. There you go. Stick that clothespin on there. Okay, same thing on this side. And you can use Tombow. I'm also out of Tombow. And believe it or not, they don't sell it at Hobby Lobby anymore. Okay, that's gonna have to go there. Just on the cardstock part, pull it up. Match up the edges, stick it together, stick your handy dandy pen on there, close up this side, line up the edges, stick it together, and stick a clothespin on there. Okay, so that looks like that is all lined up in there. You can open it up all the way if you want to. Make sure all the little corners are pressed down together. This one looks like the corner's a little sticking up, so I'm just going to trim the corner off so it won't be in the way later. Here we go. That little tip off. Alright. That's good. Now, since we pre-folded these over, they should fold down pretty easily. And now if you were using sticky tape, you could just go ahead when you have it open before we glued the corners down and just put, score pile tape around the whole square and then just peel it off as you need to stick it down. You could do it all in one fell swoop if you're using tape, or if you're using your fast fuse. Just like that, so that it's all stuck down inside. Okay, same thing here. Fold it in. Now, if you were doing it like the Italian lady did it, you would have just stuck all that on, and then once you glued the box together, the corner together, you just take your scissor and cut it off. She just cut off all the thicknesses all at one time. I just don't like cut paper edges. I like things to have a finished edge like this. Okay, so you see our paper came out okay. It kind of looks like it's hanging that way. Now, you could just, of course, use the back side of something that has no design, and it really doesn't matter what it looks like when it lines up. Okay, get your tops lined up here. And if you want to make a little tick mark where you want your holes, I'm going through all thicknesses because I'm using a crocodile. Otherwise, you probably have to use punch and then set it all up and do it again. Because if you're using just a handheld punch, it's kind of hard to punch through 4 layers of Stampin' Up! Cardstock. So if you just line it up like that so that you got them the same, punch it with the crocodile, you can go through all of them at once. Okay. Now we want to run our ribbon through there, and I think for this one I'm just going to use some I'll use this teal color that kind of matches this pool party. Not exactly pool party because they didn't make any satin. It was pool party, but you're going to need 13 inches. And you're probably going to have your stylus or something to poke it through the hole. I think this ribbon's actually Lost Lagoon, but it matches close enough to the paper that for this project I think it'll be fine. Pull that through and then go through the other side. Okay, and you want to allow them to be able to open it about that far so they can get the treat out. So, I mean, if you want to tie a bow, you'll need more than 13 inches, but I didn't want to tempt them to want to untie it. And by tying it in a knot like this, and then just showing them how to open it, maybe they wouldn't be tempted to untie the bow. So I'm just tying a square knot, overhand square knot, making it decorative on the front, you know, so that it's not all pooky-outy. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to go ahead and trim that, like so. And then you just pull it tight with the ribbon, and because the holes are small and the ribbon's filling up the whole hole, it's tight enough that it has to be pulled apart. And pull it together, okay, just like that. Alrighty, I'm going to put my sentiment on that I did. Okay, wants to stick to me more than it wants to stick to itself. Okay. I'll put this one on the side with the bow is so they're all the same. I could do that on the other side, but I want to change them so they're all on the same side. And on this side, I'm going to use some, this is from another punch from a long time ago. It makes like a little snowflakey doily looking thing. I'm going to put some score pile tape on the back of it. And I might probably go back and embellish these more with like maybe some pearls or some rhinestones. Put that right in the middle. And then I've got my other stamp piece somewhere. Okay, we'll just fish one out. Maybe the green. Just put a couple of dimensionals on there. And stick that on top of the little snowflake. Okay, just like that. And then you'll open it up, put your treats inside, pull it closed. And the satiny ribbons work the best because it makes it easier to slide. If you're going to use the smallest holes on the crocodile, you can use 3/8 inch or 1/2 inch. If you're going to go with a bigger ribbon, then you're going to like a 5/8 inch or so. If it's satin, 5/8 will even go through here. But if you're going to use something larger or wider, or like grosgrain type ribbon, you'll need to use like your 1/8 inch hole punch, regular hole punch, and just punch 2 holes, line them up, mark it, punch 2 more holes, unless you can punch out through all layers. And that's the finished little treat box. And your supplies you need are a full sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock and some scraps of cardstock for matting if you want to mat them. If you don't want to mat them, then you're going to use some 1 7/8 inch or 2 inch squares of designer series paper. And that's all there is to it. Easy as pie.